All right, all right. Welcome to USD, to the Brink Pitch Prep. I'm Benton Moore. Prasad Sunkara is here, and I'm filling in for Amy tonight. She's under the weather, so I'm going to kick things off. I don't know what these slides are, so we're going to find out ourselves. I'm going to talk about customer discovery. Prasad is going to talk about product and product development. So it should be a fun, tactical kind of night, really dive in. But let's do some admin. If you have not, that's a good way to sign the attendance form. Everyone probably did that when they came in. So we are week 3 of about 10 weeks or so, leading up to the San Diego Angel Conference. We're trying to train all the entrepreneurs and get you ready for what investors are looking for. So each week is the way it's broken down, kind of one slide in your deck. So every week, a different slide. By the end of them, you will have had good training on each one, and you'll be ready for us. We have many partners. This is the most collaborative startup city in the world, and the next great startup city, as it has been since 1999, is San Diego. And thanks to all these people who work together, we work with all the universities and all of the trade groups and all the incubators in town. It's awesome. We are grant funded. Everything we do at the Brink, which is part of the SBA and the SBDC, is funded by grants. So all of the teaching we do is free. All of the advising we do is at no cost. Really good use of your tax dollars to foster entrepreneurship, in my opinion. And I'm glad to see you all out for the grant-funded pizza. So as an entrepreneur, there's a lot going on in town. I know Amy runs through this every week, but on the left, we have what's called the curious stage. Then you get committed and crushing it. And so early stage companies tend to interact with the groups on the left. And as you move faster through to the right, you're talking about publicly traded companies and biotechs and companies like Dexcom and Correlation and venture capital and private equity. But the point of this is there's a place for everyone in town to collaborate and to get funding. So tonight, pizza. Everyone had pizza. We have sodas, happy days. We're gonna talk a little bit about customer discovery, have a little break, and then Prasad is gonna talk about product. That's gonna be the agenda tonight. So I'll talk briefly, I guess, about San Diego Angel Conference. It is the largest one-day angel conference in the country. It will be year 7, SDAC 7 VII. I'm a former fund manager, and I've been part of the first 6. I think there are 3 or 4 of us who are OG enough to go back to the original SDAC. But it's a pretty unique environment for both investors and entrepreneurs. And I always talk about collaboration in San Diego because it's really important how we work together. I'm a former entrepreneur turned investor, so I can see both sides of every deal pretty easily. And I've sat in your shoes, struggled as an entrepreneur, and I know how hard it is. It's not that much easier being an investor, but I would say it is. But the point of it is we find great companies and we find great investors, and we try and get them both ready to meet each other at the right time. And for the next couple of months, we're doing that, working with you as entrepreneurs, getting your pitch ready, getting your deck ready, so that when you meet an investor who's new to the game, who's probably looking at their first 100 companies, writing their first check, it's a meaningful experience for them. They're going to be looking at companies that know how to present themselves well and know the lingo and know how to behave and what it takes to raise seed money. So it's a really good pairing, and then it all ends. This year it's a little later. It's going to be in June, but it ends on a one-day event. And this year it'll be held at San Diego State. They're our partner in the Brink Pitch Prep, and then they'll be taking over the Angel Conference. So it'll be hopefully bigger and better than ever. And every year we write at least one $200,000 check as a minimum. I think we've never had a year where we've written less than $500,000. I think the biggest is about 750 and the smallest is 500. And that usually goes to 1 to 3 or 4 companies. But the winner always gets at least 200,000. And I think usually it's around 300. I think the biggest was 400. But it's a very unique event. It's a great way for, even if you don't win, I will tell you this, apply, meet the investors in town. We were just talking about this company, Cooler Heads, Prasad and I, they were in SDAC 1 back in 2019. They did not win. They didn't make the semifinals, but Kate, the founder, was really early on. She kept at it and she made a lot of good connections. And we recently invested in Cooler Heads through New Fund Venture Group about 2 years ago, was it, Prasad?
Yeah, we also did a follow-on.
Yeah, so twice. So the point is, this is the right traffic to be playing in, and you'll meet great people even if you don't win the whole thing. The Brink is, as you know, grant funded and part of the SBDC. We have 16, I believe, specialized advisors who specialize in everything from fintech to biotech to clean tech to software, HR, legal, and all of it's completely free. It would have, if the Brink were around when I was starting my company, it would have saved me tens of thousands of dollars of outside consultants. We actually have a legal clinic here that's tied in with the law school, so you get some free legal advice. It's an incredible free grant funded program. And the whole purpose of the Brink is to drive economic impact, and we do that by accelerating innovation. Brink is different than other SBA centers because we focus on high tech and innovation. So it's a little bit different here. That is Amy Duncan, who you all know, the director of the Brink, and Kathy Butcher, who's in charge of lab and the Entrepreneurship Center at San Diego State. So there's a snapshot of collaboration. And the agenda tonight is customers and product. Those are the next 7, looks like, episodes. So we've got a very full agenda and lots to learn. Next week is going to be optimizing your GUST profile. The GUST profile is the online platform that you apply to SBAC. Most anytime you apply to any pitch competition or conference, there's going to be some kind of online portal. This is your first time. This is a good one to tune in with Sylvia. I teach with Sylvia. She's known the GUST system for 6 years, so she'll tell you all the tricks. Let's see. That is the calendar. So kicking off in March is when the investors get involved. So for the next 2 months, or the next 6 weeks, we'll be doing pitch prep. And then the application deadline is right at the end of this series. 2 months of due diligence and meeting the investors. And then in June, we're writing big checks. So we're funding entrepreneurs in June. If you would like to apply, Thursday, February 27th, put that on your calendar. That's the last day to apply. I will tell you this as an entrepreneur, sometimes you put things off to the last minute. That's fine, because everything's important. It's hard to juggle and figure out what's unimportant. But save a little time, even if you're going to apply on the last day, you can get your application in and then always update it. Investors won't see it on day 1. But if you get to February 26th and you're thinking about it, but you think maybe I don't have enough time, just go ahead and apply and start your incomplete application. But try and get it in. All right. Wow. It's a lot of tiles. The Brink has a lot of programming, and we do everything from SBIR workshops. I do a lean sprint workshop. We have legal office hours, innovation pitch competition, and a lot of free, no cost, one-on-one world-class consulting. So take advantage of that. If you ever want to find out what events are there, you can scan the barcode or go to our website. And yes, a lot of ways to get involved. All right. Okay, I think Did I miss anything, Stephen? I think we're going to get into the meat of the program right here. Okay. That was enough admin. I don't envy Amy's job. That's a lot. All right. Yes, sir.
You said SDAC was the biggest in the country.
Yes.
Is that number of people, number of investors, amount, or on what metric? Is that the-
Number, yeah, it's the largest one-day check, dollar-wise.
Dollar-wise.
Yes, dollar-wise. Yeah. And we have about 160 plus investors through the years. Never know who else going to be in the fund until we form the fund and see the companies that are in the funnel. But yeah, it's the largest check we can get in one day. So it's a big deal. All right, so tonight we're talking about customer discovery in preparation for SDAC, but really in preparation for everything you're building. So who here is an entrepreneur? Okay, good. Who here is building something important? Yes. Who here knows why their customer loves what you're building? Somebody, okay. Okay, well, that's the holy grail. That's what we're really after. And that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. Because everything comes down to customer. Y Combinator says, make something people want. So it's all about building something that your customers want. It sounds so simple, but talented, dedicated, intelligent engineers do this all the time. They spend so many years building something no one wants, out testing the market. So I work with entrepreneurs, and I have been in the chair as an entrepreneur making tough decisions. So I try and do things quickly and give you the information so that you can learn, iterate, pivot, fail quick, whatever you want to call it. But I like to say to succeed fast. So in the 8-week sprint I do, we have 3 things. Business model canvas, which many of you, who's familiar with the business model canvas? Okay, good. So it's kind of the blueprint, your one sheet to help you organize as an entrepreneur and stay focused. We do a lot of customer discovery, and this is where you hone in on the value proposition. And then we work on pitches so that you can nail a pitch in 1 minute. Big picture, it's, as Einstein said, identify the problem, not the solution. Fall in love with the problem. And when I'm teaching entrepreneurs how to pitch quickly, I always tell them, if you can finish this sentence, customers love us because, anyone in the room is going to be paying attention to you. And if you only have 10 seconds, say that. Customers love us because, and unlike our competitors, we do this. Those 2 sentences, solid gold. So that's what we're going to work on today. And what it is in business terminology is the value proposition, right? The customers' pains and gains and everything you do in the EMC and the lean startup. There's me and lots of logos proving that I am part of this collaborative system. Good deal. This is a snapshot of the 9 weeks we do in Lean Essentials Sprint. And if you can see, there's lots of customer discovery. This is a stripped down version of the National Science Foundation I-Corp, which is usually a year-long program that involves at least 100 customer discovery interviews. Very intense. We try and pack that into like 4 weeks and never hit 100, but it's a good starting point.
Are these slides going to be available to us or no?
They absolutely are. Yeah. So they'll be, I probably will lash through some of the tactical stuff to stay on time, but we will make them available 6 o'clock. We're good. So this is what we spend our time in the lean sprint. You can see 60% of it is customer discovery. That's because it's so important. Before we dive into tactical stuff. All right. So some people, we've all known companies that fail quickly because they think they have a cool idea and they don't really flesh it out. They don't test it by going to the market. So the business model canvas, that middle box there, the value proposition, that is the hinge pin of everything in your business. That is what your customers see in you and your products, your services, whatever it is you're selling, that makes them want to stop using what they're using, switch and buy from you. And so the value prop is so important that it ties together your whole business. This is from our training. This is Uber. It's pretty easy to think about how they would have gone about customer discovery because they disrupted a really broken marketplace with taxi cabs. So you can easily imagine, talking to riders who had been stranded at airports, who had paid ridiculous fees, who had to pay in cash, who had been left on the side of the road at 3 a.m. And there was quite a lot of pains to document. So this is what you'll do if you are building your value proposition. You will look at the customer's pains and you will talk about how you break them out. So all of this stuff is not from me. This lean startup came out about 15 years ago now. It disrupted the industry of business model writing, business plan writing. I was used to get paid a lot to write 80-page business plans for startup companies that no one ever read, including the venture capitalists that they gave them to, and they called them $5,000 door stoppers or paperweights. And Lean Startup changed that and tried to make everything quick, fluid, and get everything onto one sheet and really focus on customer discovery. Steve Blank is the godfather of it all. These are great books if you want some deep reading, historically significant and where it all began. Steve Blank has taught this course at Cal, Stanford, and Harvard, Columbia, I believe, for the last 15 years. So also, there's a great book called Talking to Humans about customer discovery. Great name, and it's by Cliff Constable. And this is the truth curve from his book. And when you start off with a business idea, you have to really take a look in the mirror and realize you're in a fantasy world. You don't know what you're building and you don't know if it's going to work. That's okay. But as you move through customer discovery and go up that curve, the more information you have, the more you will be able to trust it. And as you get to live product on the top right, you should have some really solid data. So as we go through customer discovery, what we call getting out of the building and getting out of your own head sometimes, there's a real workflow, a process, and it's all about discovery and validation in the field, talking to customers, asking open-ended questions, figuring out what works. And when it doesn't work, being able to pivot quickly and loop back. And it's a loop. Once you have validated your assumptions and your hypotheses about the market, then you can start thinking about talking to customers and selling and going to market. But it really starts with the discovery, starts with the hypothesis, figuring out a hypothesis that works for your market, testing it, then you test the product hypothesis, and then you verify it with data. So all of this can happen sitting down with customers for 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, over and over and over again. It's a little bit of drudgery. It's painstakingly slow. Everybody wants to shortcut it, but I can tell you that this is the best time you will ever spend doing hard grunt work as an entrepreneur in the field, learning about your customer. So it's easy to talk about being academic about it and talk about tactics, but we have a lot of companies that have done customer discovery and been very successful. Airbnb is one we all know, probably love and hate simultaneously sometimes. But in the early days of Airbnb, the two founders, they had an apartment in San Francisco, an apartment in New York. And instead of adding more apartments and thinking they had something that really, really worked, they actually went to the apartments, physically talked to the landlords, talked to the tenants over and over and sat down with them, walked through every room, took pictures, spent like 6 hours with each of the landlords after they had a few rentals and asked questions about what could be better, what could be better, what did they love, what did they hate, and then what would be, and then when they were talking to the tenants, the renters, they were asking questions like, not, was there enough soap and toilet paper, and was it cheaper than a hotel and all that stuff? They would ask, what would be an ideal situation? If this was 3 stars out of 5, what would 7 stars? So they were already starting to think like much bigger, what the product development would be 3 or 4 iterations down the road. And that's where they came up. That's when they heard some crazy ideas like, oh, it would be cool if I stayed in a spaceship, or if I could have a submarine for a hotel, or maybe a big baked potato. And somebody told them that idea, and they actually did it years down the line. Yes, sir.
If you can flip back 2 slides,
Back to, okay,
that one.
yes.
Actually, I think it was the one before.
Truth
The one
curve.
before, sorry, no, after, yeah, next one.
Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah, so, no, this one. The question I have is, for a medical device, there is another group in the middle, FDA, and they need a device in order to approve or something. So this kind of iterative development is not always feasible, and it's not something that one could easily iterate on, because building something, the NRE costs involved are very, very high. And looking through the following 2 slides that you're describing, my question is, would you get into that aspect also, the NRE costs and FDA, or that's homework for myself to be done by myself?
I'm not gonna get into FDA costs tonight, but yes, we work with a lot of med device companies that do go through an iterative process. And Prasad is
Yeah.
gonna speak to that tonight about product development, and that really ties into, this is understanding your market early, right?
Yeah.
Really understanding the market, the customer. You can do a lot of discovery even in med devices before FDA.
Got it.
To refine your offering. Prasad's
Yeah,
gonna talk
I
about.
think it's helpful to have talk to somebody, consultants, whatever.
Yeah.
To find out how difficult in this space. When you're doing a class 3, interventional now, obviously, it takes a lot more time and money. Is it worth doing that? But what he's talking about is even before, is there a need for something, are there customers?
Yeah, thank you. That was great.
Yeah, and if anybody has questions, this is not a formal lecture, even though we are on hybrid and being recorded. I've been. So why do we do customer discovery? Well, businesses fail and we don't want to fail. So if we look at, this is from CB Insights, famous reasons startups fail. Number 1 reason, no market need. The customers don't want what you're buying, what you're building. So let's figure that out first. The second reason early stage companies fail, they run out of cash. This is the C&C, cash and customers. If you find me customers, I can get you capital. So we can figure out both of those problems early on. That mitigates the risks of early stage companies. And, then we can make sure we build the right team. If you go down the list, some of the other things that are customer related are get out competed, pricing cost issues, poor product. And you can really figure out a way to make your odds much better of survival if you do customer discovery. Customers and capital. Everyone always says, if I had more cash, I can get more customers. Doesn't work that way. If you have more customers, you can get more cash. And think about customer discovery as really a study in psychology. We talked about product market fit, and that's the holy grail where you want to be. Right now, you're trying to understand what makes your customers tick. What are they using now? And think about it from their perspective always. Whatever they're using now, it might not be perfect, but you're asking them to switch and maybe pay more money and go through more hassles to switch over. So really understanding what motivates them is so important. And when you're doing these customer discovery interviews, it's going to take a little while to get to these psychological issues and the motivations behind purchasing. So it takes a little bit of time. That graph there is what it takes to get empathy over the course of an hour. And you're gonna have to make small talk and build rapport. And like I said, it's tedious. But at the end, if you can actually break through to someone and learn about the market, learn about what they're using, that's when you get real actionable data. Or you can just build it first, discover what the market has to offer second, and fail spectacularly. We had lots of good examples of these. Apple, they do pretty well at product development, but they failed pretty bad just building a cool gadget that no one wanted called the Newton. 10 years later, they called it the iPad. That took off. But Google, their glass, they didn't think about what it looked like or what people would think with the privacy issues. That failed. And Amazon, like the three biggest tech companies, had real big product failures because they spent more time focusing on developing what they thought were cool gizmos and didn't talk to anybody in the field to find out if anybody wanted them. Amazon made a phone, the Fire phone. Microsoft made a phone that crashed too. Microsoft had a media player at one time. Quibi, does anybody remember them? They were a streaming service that they lost about $5 billion in a matter of months because they just didn't do any customer discovery. It's great. And then one of my favorites is the Cybertruck. I think this is a hot product. We'll see how it goes. Does anybody here have a Cybertruck?
No. What is that?
I would love to see the tapes of the customer discovery interviews before they built that. I don't think there was a whole lot of customer discovery on that. But we're building products, services, and customer discovery is a build in itself. Stage 1, 2, 3, and 4. The ultimate idea is product market fit, but you can't get there immediately. You have to do the steps. So it's a information loop, going out of the building, talking to customers, getting your data, asking everyone the same thing, refining, developing new interview tactics, coming back, pivoting, coming back in the building, sorting it out. You do it over and over and over again. Eventually, you'll get where you want to get. And that's insights into the customer discovery process, insights into the market, really what makes your customer buy what they buy. And you want them to switch and buy from you. When you do customer discovery, it's really important to be a 4-year-old, maybe a 5-year-old. Your favorite word is why. And you might have heard 5 whys is when you really get into something. And you can sit down with someone and ask them why. Why did you buy that? Did you like it? Why did you buy it for this purpose? Well, why? And just keep asking. So I love this picture, 5-year-old kid. And if you've ever been on a car trip with a 5-year-old, that's what it is. So it's very different than what you normally do as an entrepreneur, but it can be fun, but it can also be tedious. So stage 1, develop your hypothesis. A hypothesis is what you think about your business, what you think about your product that you're taking to market. Usually an if then, or you can also, I believe that customers will adopt this if we put these benefits out there. And then you talk to the customer about those benefits. Stage 2, you develop interview questions that you stick to, open-ended questions, but you try and get the subject talking. It's really like investigative journalism sometimes. What are you currently using? Always, when you're doing customer discovery, it's always what has been done. Because if you ask, what's the future like, oh, what kind of car are you going to buy in 10 years? The answers don't matter because people will make things up. They're just ideas. And you're trying to get away from the idea business into actionable data. So finding out what they're doing at the time right now, where there's something in the market that's competing and they're using that. That's where you want to really be. You want to find out, okay, are there gaps in the market? You're paying too much? You think that you could have a higher quality product that maybe charges more. And then when you conduct customer interviews, open-ended, try and get people talking. Have rate 1 to 5. Big thing to look for is body language. When you're talking to someone, oftentimes they'll say one thing, but hold their arms or do this, or you can't get that in a survey monkey or a Google form. So sitting down with people, even if it's on Zoom, we struggled a little bit during the pandemic, being able to do customer discovery, but we were able to. And one of the upshots of the pandemic is Zoom allows you to sometimes reach the decision maker that was gate-kept off. So if you were trying to talk to the CFO of a Fortune 500 company and they really are the ultimate decision maker, that wasn't happening in 2019, but in 2020, when they were home, you often got 30 minutes with them and their dog and their kid. But you got some great actionable data, and the more you can do in person interviews, the better. Best place to do them is quite often trade conferences, trade shows, conferences, university settings, wherever your customers are going to be. Get one person at a trade show, that's a good start. Almost always you'll come out of those kind of meetings with referrals for others. And quite often, they won't tell you what the buying motive is. You have to fish it out of them. So that's why a really good customer discovery interview usually takes about 45 minutes to an hour. And after that, you identify the lessons learned and you figure out if yes.
So you mentioned that every survey should be the same.
You should have some standard questions to start with and then let the conversation go where it goes, right? So if someone wants to talk about something important that's not on your list, that's great. You can change your questions and they can evolve too.
But if there's like diversity in your customer base, right? Like, I don't know, like I could give my example, but like obviously selling a car to a woman or a man might be a different sales pitch. And so, is it always, I mean, should they always be the same, or should you maybe switch?
No, you should absolutely dive into all of your target markets, right? You know, whatever the motivation is to purchase. So when you have multiple consumers, they have different benefits to different consumers, right? So someone might want a truck because they haul things. Someone might want a truck because it looks cool. Someone might want a truck because they work in construction and they need a roof rack. Some people, you know, so the benefit to the customer is different per customer. But if you do enough and you know that 90% of the market really puts a value on this benefit, people buy 4x4 trucks because they haul things more than can't buy a Tesla and haul a boat trailer, right? But you can with a truck. 90% of the market says that's the most important benefit. Then you can spend your marketing dollars touting that benefit, right? I won't just say like big trucks look cool. I mean, oh, we can tow trucks, we can do this. So yeah, you can get bogged down in trying to cater to one customer. You know, imagine if you just did 10 customer discovery interviews and one of them was off way out there and you decided that's how you're going to spend your marketing dollars and that's how you're going to develop the product. Way out. So good question. So yeah, you gather insights and then when you're back in the building, you can start building product based on what customers want, and cultivated insights are what generate your ultimate value prop. At the end of the day, you're building something the customer wants and you have actionable data and you know that the market is big enough. So as you're doing customer discovery, you have to be wary of biases you may have. your idea of a cute baby is very different than what someone else's is. And we always tell our entrepreneurs, your baby's not cute the first time. And maybe it's the first time that someone's told you your business idea is just not that great. Unfortunately, most first business ideas need to be iterated, need to be developed. And also confirmation bias, right? So if you're talking to someone, it's very easy to get into selling your product and talking about, would you buy this? So maybe there's a chance, right? Maybe there's a chance. No, don't do that. Interview tips, asking why, getting your subject to talk, just telling stories, talking about why they're buying what they're buying. You know, you can, most everyone, people like to complain. That's great market data. So whatever they're buying, whether it's high-speed internet, prescription drugs, cyber trucks, whatever it is, they want to tell you what's wrong with their decision to buy that and what's wrong with the product. So if you're in that market, it's actually pretty easy to get actionable data on the ground. It's hard to get it secondhand, but you can get people to talk. That's where it is. And really, it's all about just listening and really documenting everything that's going on. And if, you know, people aren't comfortable, you can just let silence linger there for a bit and eventually they'll start talking again. So don't feel like you have to push people in a different way. And you only lose what you cling to. I love that one for customer discovery. You got to let a lot of things go, especially the precious ideas you have when you're first starting out. They don't always hold up to market test. And this is Strategizer is a good online program for monitoring and tracking all of your interviews. And this is what you can have on a test card. You can have your hypothesis. It says we believe that. Go in that, verify and measure, and then how do you know if it was right? And you figure it out. It's like we believe that 50% of our freemium customers will convert to fully paid, and if we add this feature to only premium subscriptions, and we'll measure that by offering it to 500 customers, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of great ways to do customer discovery. It's painstaking. Can be pretty simple field work. There's a lot of ways to screw it up too. Mainly you just don't let your interviewee talk, give you the answers. But when you let go of your idea and let the market tell you, and yes, there's even more ways to screw it up. But National Science Foundation has done thousands and thousands of these development programs. They always recommend a minimum of 100 customer discovery interviews. We see patterns developing usually around 60, 70. That can be aberrations sometimes, but we like to say aim for 100. If you get patterns before then, that's great. Yes, how we doing? All right, so enough talking by me. Let's do a mini workshop. So 7 minutes. I want everyone to pick a partner, and we're going to do your choice of two things. There's two ways you can test for past behavior, or we can test to a little here, unlock deeper motivations and desires. Those are the two questions. And we're going to pick a test, partner up, ask 7 minutes of questions. I don't think we're going to have time to switch. Then we'll come back and have some observations. And let's do that. So, pair up. You can just turn to each other. Yeah, pick one of these.
I think maybe
All right. All right, that's good crack. Good crack. This is what customer discovery is supposed to sound like. Like data in the wild. This is great. I'm gonna ask a couple of people to share what their insights were, if anything came out of it. Raise your hand and I'll give you the mic. All right. You and you. Right? Tell us what you.
Oh, I thought you said, I didn't hear you.
Okay, never mind. All right.
I thought you said, raise your hand.
What's your name?
Harry.
All right. Okay, all right. Tell us what you learned. Which one did you do?
Yeah, I picked the dream car
Okay.
and I was talking to my friend and his dream car turns out to be a German car that feels very comfortable and also very safe. When I drilled in, both of them were very subjective, personal experiences that he had with the German cars. And he likes Mercedes more. But in terms of feeling safe, I could not get a specific criteria why one would be safer than the other. It's just that the car felt bulky, sturdy, and stuff like that. Then we talked about the comfort. And you did not like the comfort of the other cars. So we started talking about Japanese cars, which one he tried. And he said Nissan. And that's when the time ran out. I was going to follow up with that was not apples to apples in terms of the price point. If he had tried an Infiniti built by Nissan in the same price category, then I would have gotten more out of him.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's what I learned.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, it's hard to do in 5 minutes or 7 minutes, but that's exactly how it's supposed to evolve, right? The conversation. You go down a tangent, you're not really sure, and you start talking about competing goods in the market and maybe they're parallel paths. And you're right, you start asking questions, you get subjective answers. You're only talking to one person, and it could be that they read 10 years worth of consumer reports and car and driver and have all of this data, and they made a very specific choice based on 100% facts. Or it could just be like, I liked it. So, as you like, and different products are different ways, right? A lot of products are impulse buys on the end of counters, as you're walking out of a supermarket. And some are, you don't buy a car, you don't buy a house, at the supermarket. So they're more intense. So really understanding what goes into the motivation of the customer before you start selling to them is really important. So thanks for sharing that. All right, anyone else, maybe had the other, did you do the same one?
Favorite. Oh, I know we did do the other one, sorry.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so we had the cutest baby idea here. We had inspired by the Uber example. So friend here, I'm sorry I didn't get your name. Alexander was, his last thing that he purchased more than $100 was a plane ticket from San Diego to New Orleans. And he noticed that there's a lot of pain associated with the hassle of driving from North County to the airport here and then getting from the airport in New Orleans to where he was going. So he had the idea of doing a Uber for planes. So how having a private driver in your own car is too expensive. So now you could say, oh, having a private plane and your own pilot is too expensive now. But if you could get the number of people that want to go to New Orleans, fill a plane, you might make it profitable.
That's a lot of product development for 5 minutes. That's pretty cool. Yeah, like anytime you have an asset that's underutilized, you can Uber it up, cut it into pieces. They've done it with cars, they've done it with pools, obviously condos. So that's a wrap for the customer discovery portion of tonight. One of my favorite quotes going into entrepreneurship and especially customer discovery: fail better, right? Iterate, iterate, iterate. Don't expect to get it right the first time, but fail again and fail better. And my parting shots as you go into customer discovery and entrepreneurship in general, these are what I look for: be curious, be tenacious, and be kind. If you follow that path through customer discovery, you will get great conversations, great data, and you'll have a fun time doing it. As Ted Lasso said, be curious, not judgmental. All right, appreciate you. And we'll take a quick break, grab some pizza, soda if you like, 5 minutes, and we'll come back with Prasad talking about product. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
Right now, it's kind of like.
Okay, okay. Round two. All right, next up, we have Dr. Sunkara, my friend Prasad, talking about product or just product. Yes and yes. All right, everyone.
Thank you, Benson. My name is Prasad Sunkara. I just wanted to add a couple of things to what Benson mentioned about the discovery. I want to give you real examples where I lost money on a couple of companies. One company, I can tell the name, Novel R Pharmaceuticals. That's about 20 years ago. Actually, he was my boss. He came up with an exciting idea, going to a dentist, and he came back and Prasad, I got this idea, how to quickly reverse the anesthesia. When they do the cleaning or dental work, they use lidocaine, which is an anesthetist, and become numb. and people drool, they can't go to work right away. And so he came up with a way, he's a pharmacologist, so he came up with a vasodilator. You would inject a vasodilator, so open up the vessels there and you release that and then you can, so that was an interesting idea. He got a patent and he became a venture capital after we sold the company. So he had the funding and I actually invested in it. And we went through a number of funds. I think he probably raised 50, 60 million, gotten it approved. But unfortunately, he didn't do the market research. And apparently the dentists, very, the patients, dental patients, and the dentists are very cheap. The cost for that product was about $100, eventually. And who would spend $100 to get this thing come out? I mean, you get out of this sedation, anesthesia, maybe an hour ahead of this. Usually takes 2 hours. With this, they found it can reduce it to 1 hour. So it's a failed product. The company failed. Nobody, it was eventually gave away, got the FDA approval and all that. So I think the critical thing, like Benson mentioned, is find whether there is a need for it, whether you can, is it within the reach of patients, whether they pay. I mean, I'm giving you the medical thing. I'm sure it's true with anything, So that's one thing. And another company was, there is a need, there's a big need. And there was a existing product produced, marketed by a big company. But these guys, founders, thought they can come up with a better product. And they did the best they can, but they ended up with a product which is very complex. And the company, the big company, was selling for, let's say, $20. Their cost was $5. These guys ended up making their product for $25, and that means they had to charge a lot more. So eventually they spent about $40 million and had to give away the company. So it's also important, not only the need, but also can you produce it at a price that you can sell it. And it's not just the improvements that you can do, but also there is the competition. You got to look at competition. Okay, just I want to add that. Just a way to introduce myself. Let's see. Am I going? How do I? Okay. So I actually was trained as a scientist with a PhD in biochemistry. I came to this country to. Oh, okay. Came to this country as a fellow at a place called MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston. I was there. After 2 years, they offered me a junior faculty assistant professor. I stayed there for 3 more years before I was recruited by a pharma company. So I was at the time called Marion Merrill Dow, which eventually became Sanofi Aventis. So I was there 13 years, became director of the department, and eventually I got what we call those days biotech bug. So I moved to San Diego. I wanted to get into startups. So I was involved in 3 startups in 90s. Those days there was no competition from the software or hardware. Biotech is the one where all the money was funded. So if you did halfway good, you get an exit in 2 to 3 years. So I was involved in 3 companies, and all of them did well, and I learned a lot, more than money I made. And I became a business guy, a business development, finance, and preclinical and clinical development guy. I learned a lot because in these startups, you had to do everything. So then I actually started my own company in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I moved from La Jolla to Ann Arbor because a couple of professors were interested in working with me, starting out our company. I was involved as part of that. I was there 11 years in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's a wonderful place for about, I would say, 8 months. The 4 months are tough to, obviously right now probably is very cold, but beautiful place rest of the time. And, great university. I was involved in 5 startups, founder of 3 and CEO of 2. I was founder and CEO for 3, and then when the last one was acquired, I moved back to San Diego. I want to take it easy, but I'm as a passionate startup guy and a scientist, I want to keep my mind busy. I started a group called at the time TCA, Tech Coast Angels San Diego, which now we call ourselves New Fund Venture Group. I used to be, I was the chair for life science investment for TCA, then New Fund, for about 4.5 years. And I must have looked at, we funded about 60 during that time, 5-year period, 60 companies. I must have looked at, our percentage was about less than 5%. So you can imagine, I must have looked at hundreds of pitch decks, okay, different things. And I learned a lot also, about the technology and people and all that. So after that, in the last couple of years, I stepped down and I wanted to go back to my startup, model where I licensed technologies from universities, and then raised a little bit of money from family and friends. And obviously by that time I had a lot of friends and also credibility at New Fund. So I was able to raise money from New Fund also. So I formed what I call foundation studio under accelerator called Seed to Fruit, seed to fruit, right? So, and then I must have looked at maybe about 800 technologies from tech transfer offices at the universities. I'm more into medical, for those of you not in that space, you can also talk about same thing, I can, but in general, that's what my focus was. And I selected about 40 of them and pared down to 10 technologies. I had some advisors as part of this, mostly New Fund members. And eventually I settled on 3 technologies. So I licensed two of those already. One company is called iGenX, which I will show you at the end of it, a small pitch deck. So to give you an example. And then another company is called Paroro Biosciences. The third company is Stealth. We're looking at a CRISPR-Cas technology for the treatment of Alzheimer's. So we haven't pulled the trigger yet, but we're going to. So I'm looking at breakthrough technologies to solve problems in medicine. So that's my passion. And I'm here because Amy asked me whether I could come and, talk to you guys, especially talk about product, the problem solution and how do you define the product. So that's what I'm here. So let's see. Okay. This is very critical product, okay, because first of all, you need to know, is there a problem? That's where what Benton is talking about. Is there a need for something? That's a problem. And so if there is a problem, do you have a solution? Did you come up with your some idea that you can improve, or cure that problem or treat that problem? And then you have to articulate to people, right? How you can present that solution to folks that would be interested in acquiring your product in terms of the customers. in terms of the investors, in terms of putting money into this so that you can eventually develop it. And for example, in medicines and devices, you got to go through the FDA regulatory pathway. Obviously, in others, you don't have to, but still, you got to get it approved by some, UL labs and others for other electronic stuff and others. So there is always some regulatory path you got to pass. And then how is it differentiated? What kind of competition is out there? There's always competition. I mean, you can come up with some idea, but there is always something out there that you got to compete with. So how can you have a moat around it? So can you apply for a patent? Especially in all the biotech and pharma, we need to have patents. Software, not so, but that gives us the defensibility so that at least for a certain period, we have the exclusivity, which is important because we, in pharma and biotech, you're spending millions of dollars, billions actually, 1 billion these days to get one product approved. So for example, on the right-hand side, in my case, the Agenix, the problem is glaucoma. It's a leading cause of blindness. There's no treatment. I mean, there is a prevention using eye drops, lowering intraocular pressure, but still 10 to 15% of those patients lose vision. So there's nothing out there to treat it. So that's a problem. What is the solution? This professor at the University of Colorado has come up with a way to treat using a gene therapy product, okay? So that's what I licensed from the university. And so that's the solution. What's the product? The product is a virus that has this gene therapy gene impregnated in so that it can produce a protein that helps the death of these retinal ganglion cells. I mean, it's too much science, but essentially that is the product. It's gene is delivered through a virus that it goes into the intravitreal, into the eye, which produces this protein that helps prevents the death of the retinal ganglion cells. And retinal ganglion cells are important for vision. When they die, you lose vision. Okay, so essentially that's kind of thinking you got to think about when you're looking for a product.
We allowed to ask questions in the middle or wait till the end?
Yeah, let's wait until the end, right? Or unless it's really you want to ask now or related.
I'll wait till the
Okay,
end.
please. Okay, so also when you are defining the product, you also have to think about the audience. Okay, for example, if you're here are a couple of examples. San Diego Angel Conference, I think they're going to have it sometime in June, right? So there are a mixture of people like you, so they're scientists, they're probably software guys, hardware guys, different people. So based on the audience, you got to also present your product in a different way. And on the other hand, if you're going to new fund venture group, we're all scientists. We have a technology group, we have a life science group. Life sciences groups are all really people like me that have been in industry or academia industry and then startup. So they know a lot of science. So you probably have to present more technical, okay, the product, so the description and all that. So, okay, so this is an example of a slide deck. So where does a product come? Product comes after, like here, you have a problem, a solution, a market opportunity, like Benson mentioned. You provide them, you find out, make sure there is an opportunity for you to develop this, and you may be able to sell it to somebody. And then comes the product, right? how can you solve that problem? With what, a device? Or a drug, so how can you solve that? That's what, where the product, comes in this pitch deck. And then if it is a drug, how can you design it? Okay, same thing is true with the device or medical device. Or same thing with anything you can think of. I'm restricting to healthcare or health, medical devices and drugs, but so you want to know how. So somebody said, like a car, how can you sell a car? I mean, there is same way, you can come up with what kind of car you like, somebody likes sports car, right? Somebody likes a minivan, because they have a lot of other things to haul. So those kind of things. So you design your offering based on the need, okay? And so when you present the product, in this particular case, you got to present it in such a way that people can understand and can conform. You have the right data, you have the right mechanism of action of this product. And then you have not only animal data, but also clinical data. As you go along, you develop all that, okay? I'm just giving for this indication, but you can relate to whatever you're working on. So you have to provide enough data to substantiate what you're offering to people, right? And so usually when people talk about this product, either they provide too much of this or too little data, and then they provide information that may not be complete. So you have to, you'll get only 1 or 2 chances to present to people when you're raising money. So you want to take that opportunity and make your best presentation. So you got to think what kind of audience, like I said before, if it is a lay person, you got to come up and present in a lay way, in a manner that they can understand. If it is a real scientific, you got to present in a way that they would appreciate it and they would think about it and come back and ask questions. So also, yeah, one of the things that I sometimes I make mistakes too, even after all this experience. Because I'm trained as a scientist, I try to focus on science, which is good when the audience are scientists. But lots of time the investors are not scientists. A lot of VCs are not scientists; they're business guys, and some of them are. They understand with time. But so you have to be very concise, and you also have to differentiate your presentations depending on the audience. That's very critical. And you also try and complete your presentation for 10 minutes, just so that then they will have more time to ask questions. But you don't have to present everything at the first time. If there is interest, they'll get back to you and gather more information. You can provide more information. Okay, here, I thought I'll give small pitch deck for Igenex.